for these people.
Dropping an atomic weapon as one of the possible options on Gaza. Now, meanwhile, they've already dropped the equivalent of 2 atomic bombs. They only killed 60 Hamas members. So
is that the quote unquote official number? 60?
Yeah. Yeah, 60 out of 10,000. It's a 99% civilian rate.
Yeah.
So this'll do the job, I think. I mean, the goal is to get them into Egypt, right?
I mean, you could say it's an option of biblical proportions.
I mean, it's just freaking
set up.
It's again, it's crazy. It's crazy that people just talk so casually about this stuff and think it's like okay to like, and then I guess it's just as crazy that they can say it knowing that people will be like, yeah, that's a good idea. Why didn't I think about that? And it's just absolutely completely unhinged. These people should be like cut off from making any decisions.
I know, right? They're just like, yeah, we could just do a fallout about it. It's fine. The fuck?
And I mean, the size of Israel is so small that like any fucking fallout from a nuclear explosion in freaking Gaza would impact the entire coast, as well as like reach all the way to Tel Aviv.
Right on their border. What do they think is going to happen?
Like they're going to blow up? Like what? They're going to like that fallout's going to freaking enter into Egypt? Like it's just going to be a disaster. These people are crazy.
There's people still in Hiroshima. There's people in Hiroshima that are still experiencing symptoms from atomic weaponry. So, what do they think is going to happen to their own people from just being exposed to it?
Hey, but at least they got the Hamas, Mr. Hamas.
At least the hacker known as Hamas.
The hacker.
Bro, do you guys remember that news article where they're like the hacker known as 4chan? And I'm like, oh no. Oh, I love it when they're out of touch about like anything they have no fucking idea about. Yeah. I mean, this is like, I feel like this is like a Leroy Jenkins sort of situation. Like, they kind of know.
That's the thing. You can get to that because, like, I see how I've seen a little bit. Like, it's been too much. Like I said in a few shows, it's just like I've been overexposed to this stuff. But the stuff that I've seen with some of them trying to do a ground operation into Gaza has not been working well. That like resistance fighters have been pushing them back the entire time.
No, they're fucked on the.
It's eventually going to escalate to like I think a bigger bombing campaign. Like I think we've already seen some stuff that's been bad over the last 3 or 4 weeks, and it's going to be even fucking worse because like Netanyahu's already decided that he already pushed the button. He's already like moving through with the ground assault. Like he's fucking. Wait, what? Oh, okay. I was like, wait, did I miss something? But
calling
no, because Netanyahu's like already like all for doing the ground assault. He wants to like save his face.
Yeah, but you know why
population. He what?
You know why he got suspended?
Netanyahu got suspended.
It wasn't because he suggested that it was that to drop atomic. You're right. Netanyahu's all for it.
Mm-hmm.
They have a very deliberate nuclear opacity policy, and people get like they've like sent like whistleblowers to jail, like for the rest of their lives for telling nuclear secrets, for basically saying.
I believe it. They're fucking crazy.
That's the real reason why he got suspended. This is the headline because this is how they want to make it seem. But this is that I just want to make that clear. I mean,
mm-hmm.
I'll also show the video I made later.
What it's basically against the law for a bureaucrat to even discuss the option of dropping nuclear weapons. Like, yes, we do it, but we're not supposed to tell anybody about it.
Dude,
no.
They broke the rule. What is it? It's better to ask for forgiveness. What is it?
Than to ask for permission.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Like a modified
they've been doing
version of that.
They've been doing that for decades with Gaza and the West Bank.
But I mean, like, how long has Israel been? How long has Israel been a nuclear threat for?
That's a good question.
Let me check.
I mean, I'm assuming that the only reason they have a nuclear program is because the U.S. gives them weapons, right? Like, do they actually have a nuclear weapon program?
Like
well, right. I mean, we gave them. Like, I don't know enough about Israeli nuclear program. Did we just be like, here's how to make nukes, or did they like discover how to do it and we enabled that?
They stole it from us. They stole the program, but it was facilitated through like certain actors within the U.S. government. Yeah.
Their first nuclear weapons test was reported. There was a reported local Israeli underground test in 1963, a reported test in 1979.
Yeah, so they've been doing it for fucking half a century, a lot longer.
Yeah. So let's get ready, folks.
Wikipedia.
Got the nuclear arsenal already, or Iran. Also, friend of the show, the network, Mr. Social Nick, is on the similar wavelength talking about nuclear war, which is very possible in this region. I'm going to make the case for it, but it's these small, desperate countries that are going to be the most willing to use them.
Yeah,
so
that's kind of the impression I get.
Crazy this is getting.
Genocide Joe Biden in the United States is threatening war with Iran to protect Israel as it committed genocide against the Palestinians. The United States deployed a submarine that is capable of launching a nuke as a threat against.
Oh, did we just lose it, or was it just that clip? Did you clip?
No, I clipped it. Okay. Something about it. So very good.
Genocide Joe Biden in the United States is threatening war with Iran to protect Israel as it committed genocide against the Palestinians. The United States deployed a submarine that is capable of launching a nuke as a threat against Iran. And this is at the same time where Israeli officials were floating the idea of nuking Gaza. Remember when people said that Putin was saber-rattling a nuclear war, even though he never said he was going to use nuclear weapons? Now you have the United States and Israel that is straight up putting nukes on the table, and the corporate media is still like, Israel has the right to defend itself. Like, bruh, if anyone drops a nuke in this region, everyone is fucked. Let's see if we got this straight. The Biden administration is threatening war with Iran because they are illegally occupying Syria and Iraq, and they want to protect Israel as they commit a genocide. Biden is sending nuclear submarines to Australia and South Korea in order to promote war against China. He's currently arming Taiwan to the teeth, a direct violation of the One China policy. Biden also armed neo-Nazis in Ukraine in order to promote endless war with Russia. Joe Biden bombed Somalia. He called for military occupation and intervention into Haiti. He is currently escalating the blockade against Cuba. And the United States is sanctioning 1/4 of the world's population right now. The Biden administration is batshit crazy.
I don't think
I will never.
I don't remember Trump being this bad. Was Trump this bad?
Well, we had no new wars under Trump, although like he was still funding Ukraine, he was still like supplying weapons to Ukraine, he was still like he killed fucking Soleimani. So it's not like he's innocent, but like I was talking to my mom about this yesterday. Like we
lived in a peaceful world though.
We can show that like there were less wars under Trump than there were under Biden. Like that's just true. You know, that's just a true statement. But you know, I don't really like being in the position where I have to defend Trump because Biden is so bad. Like they're both awful. They're both going to lead to the destruction of this planet. Like,
so
like, why are we like we're so like aligned with this duopoly that like we remain all of our conversations within this one context of, oh, what about this guy or this guy? There's got to be a guy, right?
Doesn't matter, especially with the Israel question. Israel question is like over. It's like 99% like approval, like bipartisan. Right back. So, with a question like with Israel, and really, I would say foreign policy for the most part. Even though I think Trump said just like a couple days ago that he would have stopped the Ukraine war in 24 hours. So I know Trump seems to be more motivated to establish some sort of peace between Ukraine and Russia. But I mean, as far as Israel is concerned, I don't see any difference between Trump policy and Biden policy. It just doesn't. No. Israel and the U.S. Israel is like the 51st state. Like everything that goes on is Israel has like bipartisan support almost like 100% of the time.
Well, it's their most important client state, right?
Exactly. The freaking unsinkable aircraft carrier in the desert. Yeah. I think that's what it's called.
Yeah. So Trump did two major things. Number one, he hit the high score in drone strikes, everybody. So it's like whenever someone's like, he didn't start any new wars, I'm like, yeah, he was way fucking better at the ones we're all already in. So there's that.
That's kind of what, yeah.
Also, he removed a I'll have to look it up. I think it's called the BOFA policy, but no, all jokes aside, he did remove something something I think that was put in place during the Obama admin with reporting like civilian deaths or something like that. I'm tired of my memories hazy, so I don't remember all of that. But it's like, yeah. So it's like, and he did a bunch of other warmonger shit. It's been 50 Shades of Reagan since Reagan, and we all just need
exactly.
Reagan. Like.
So Victor actually has a thing here. So they talk about nuclear war like it's some casual thing, and I'm over here looking at Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So this is a good point because this is like, I think about this a lot, is that when you're like a bureaucrat working in DC and you're surrounded by the freaking Beltway bandits like Raytheon lobbyists and freaking Northrop Grumman lobbyists and all this stuff, you end up getting into conversations with people and these freaking like 5-star generals and stuff, and they have normal conversations and do war games with, nuclear powers like Russia and China, and they simulate how they can have nuclear war, like wars that take place over years, if not longer. Like nuclear war doesn't eventually happen. Like that's not the actual like end thing that happens. So there's this fantasy that happens with the people who are that entrenched into establishment politics that they eventually like can't have a realistic conversation about war and nuclear weapons, because nuclear weapons are always on the table if they have them. That's the thing. So they can't really, like, it's always going to escalate into destruction. I think that's one of the reasons that we haven't seen as quick of a response from countries like Iran on the whole Gaza situation, because they know that if Iran gets involved, the U.S. is involved, Israel is involved, Russia is involved. Like, how many nuclear powers do you want to get involved to turn this? Like, you could just turn freaking the entire Middle East into a freaking crater. So, I think people are trying to, like, some of these powers that be are trying to use some sort of detente and try and like have some, I wish they were a little bit more prudent and faster about it. But I think there's like this balance that they're trying to weigh, because they know with like the freaking submarine in the freaking Mediterranean now, right? It's the Mediterranean where we got nuclear subs like ready to freaking launch missiles into Iran. Like, it's just crazy. It's just crazy.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is that they're desperate. They don't care. Israel has a very explicit policy of nuking themselves in order to basically get out of a situation.
So they see it as a W. They're like, "Oh, gotcha."
Yeah. Israel has the right to bathe itself in nuclear hellfire.
That's what I mean. Like, they blow up a nuke in freaking Gaza. It's getting into Tel Aviv. Like, it's...
Yeah.
Just to hammer it home a little bit more, this is from today. Another one.
Now is in the greatest danger that we have been for years. And actually, the entire region is in the greatest danger we have been for years. We could theoretically be just 24 hours away from a nuclear war because there is a credible threat that Hezbollah and other Iranian allies will attack Israel with tens of thousands of missiles, in which case Israel could defend itself with all the weapons it has, including nuclear capabilities. So this is a very dangerous moment. Now is in the greatest danger that we have been for years.
So so for those of you who don't know in the chat, Yuval Harari is a transhumanist World Economic Forum lackey. So, you know, when he speaks, he's kind of speaking on behalf of that kind of globalist, imperialist, the stateless oligarchy. And I was going to put that in my, I'm glad you brought that up because I was going to put it in my segment anyway. But I think what's interesting about that clip is that here we see that there's some places that are kind of giving credence, and I bring it up anyway. But it's interesting to me that the World Economic Forum is basically giving the rubber stamp for Israel to do what they want to do. That's kind of the impression I'm getting from that announcement, is that he's speaking on behalf of that oligarchy, right? That, like, that's how I see it, that he's always representing this kind of like stateless bourgeois class. So when he speaks, I'm kind of like, oh shit. Like, he's basically saying that all these billionaires think it's okay to just turn freaking Gaza into a crater. Or they can find a credible reason. He's like, oh, if there is a credible reason, that means they can find the credible reason.
I just feel like the thing is, there's two things for me at least. Number one, this isn't like the prime aim. It is an aim, but it's not the prime aim. This ain't the last boss. Everybody's been paying attention to the rhetoric coming out of the establishment for the last 10 years. Knows who the last boss is going to be in this whole free fall Western Empire crumbling sort of
Hillary
song.
Clinton.
Yeah, it's going to be Hillary. She's going to finally transform into the Tarrasque. And I hope y'all got your 20-sided die, because no one's on my shift here. But yeah, no. I feel like,
I mean, I just want to make it clear that, like, we're not dealing with
there it is,
rational, sane, like, high populated countries with like a giant arsenal. They maybe have like a couple of nuclear warheads, but they're ready to go. Like they're ready. They'll activate them at any point. And I just want to show that Israel, in particular, is insane enough to consider a nuclear holocaust as a legitimate foreign policy position. This is not this isn't like fake or like any sort of like conspiracy thing. This is like things that have actually been coming up with.
Yeah, this is part of their freaking war policy.
Yeah, I'm telling you, it's Leroy Jenkins, the original Leroy Jenkins.
Crazy.
But Israel's like main objective is. I guess I'll just play the video that I made. But Israel's.
Yeah, I thought you were going to play your video.
Israel has an existential crisis on its hands. Israel needs to exist.
Yeah, because they never should have oh, never mind.
No.
Never should have existed since day one, but that's why it's always been an existential crisis, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, you should play your video.
Play your video.
Because I looked at it earlier, and it ties in well to where I'm going. My next segment.
Yeah, this was really good work, my dude.
Thank you. So last night, or I've been working on this sort of like the past couple of weeks. I knew I was going to talk about this, so like I've been collecting notes, and like this is just like I already knew everything I was going to say for this, but like I had too much condensed information that I wanted to like say at once. So like, and this is a whole can of worms. Like I'm not even talking about the fact that Israel stole our nuclear policy, and there's this whole back and forth with JFK, and which we talked about. But I just feel like this is important for people to know, because we're not dealing with any regular, rational, sane country. This is Israel. We're talking about people who literally they well, first of all, they're a safe harbor for pedophiles. I've
seen that map.
Sex criminals.
Yeah.
they beat up Christians, Jews. They literally have a live concentration camp at their border.
I mean, it's like we were saying a few weeks ago. Like, imagine the kind of mentality your culture has to have to be throwing a rave when you can see the walls of Gaza.
Imagine being
so brain damaged. So, just incredibly fascist.
I saw TikTok. It was like the live where like two people talk to each other on like TikTok live, and it was a Palestinian and Israeli girl, and like maybe I'll show a clip later, but like it was he was like showing them pictures of dead Gazan babies, and she's like, "That yes, I'm full of joy. I love it. I love it." She's like disgusting, absolute, like
it's part of their culture. It's crazy.
Part of me,
it's evil. It's the whole country is based off of racism.
I swear, all of these psyops are just different attempts to normalize fascism in places to kind of just, push it along a little bit further. With COVID in some degrees, it was a little bit further. With Ukraine in some degrees, it was a little bit further. Ukraine got super.
And now we're at the bar. The bar is genocide, which is no bar.
Yeah,
so congratulations.
That's the bar.
And I'm sorry to everybody who's getting screamed at by chuds in your life, especially if they're frothing at the mouth. But if you're getting screamed at by chuds who say if you don't stand with Israel, you support war, all you got to do is ask them one question. So the last World War, what was it over again?
Yeah, exactly.
Done. Fucking
what were we doing
done. What? It starts with a G, doesn't it? Pretty sure it starts with a G. Fucking. I'm just trying to plant seeds. No, go ahead.
Called imimut, which in English means deliberate ambiguity.
For decades, Israel has conducted itself under complete nuclear ambiguity, basically operating in complete secrecy. It's really not a question whether or not Israel has a nuclear arsenal. It's probably one of the worst kept secrets in the world, even though they have refused to confirm or deny. Several international bodies recognize Israel as one of the few countries with nuclear capabilities, and that's without all the whistleblowers and politicians outright admitting that they do indeed have nuclear weapons. Israel doesn't have nuclear power plants, but it does have a nuclear research center with a nuclear reactor, a pretty big one, based in the city of Domenia. Now, Israel doesn't allow the International Atomic Energy Agency to investigate them. Instead, they have the United States come in and send inspectors who have to announce their arrival in advance. And there's even stories from the Seymour Hersh book, which is a great read, by the way. I really recommend it. About Israelis building a fake control center on top of a real one underground. There are reports of Israel have conducted nuclear tests as early as 1979 during the Vela incident, which many experts believe was a joint nuclear test between South Africa and Israel. Ever since Israel was established, its principal objective was fairly clear. It cannot afford to lose a single war. And so Israel's nuclear policy is fairly simple in that sense, as it is based off of a biblical passage from Judges 16:30. Israelite judge Samson, who pushes apart the pillars of the Philistine temple, bringing the roof down, killing himself and thousands of Philistines along with him who had captured him, and mocking him, crying out, "Let me die with the Philistines." And so the earliest threat of the Samson Option was during the third day of the Yom Kippur War, where the Israeli Prime Minister Golda Meir ordered an Israeli airstrike planes and missiles to go on alert. And when Israel was desperate and losing the war against Egypt and Syria, there was significant evidence. In fact, there's a memo here from Henry Kissinger. Kissinger was shitting his pants. And so was Nixon, because they had the one woman prime minister, Gold Meir. I'm not sure if you believe this, but the JCS felt that Israel's program if Israel's program becomes known, we should be in a position to say that we did everything in our power to prevent Israel from going nuclear. JCS felt that we should try to stop Israel's missile production and use the Phantoms as leverage.
So wait, you saying Kissinger actually tried to stop Israel's nuclear program?
They were going to use nuclear weapons on the third day of the Yom Kippur War.
Oh shit! Oh, this is 67.
They made the explicit threat of using to prevent Israel from going.
Oh, so this isn't the first time where they've threatened to just bomb the shit out of their own country.
Right.
Holy fuck!
President Nixon, that Israel had been threatening them that they would be, quote, going nuclear if they didn't immediately airlift supplies. In fact, it's also worth mentioning that
so they needed those Phantoms really badly. They're basically like alert aircraft. I gotta talk to like Scott Ritter or something about this, but like they bank on like infinite weapon supplies from the United States,
right?
And this was a case of like explicit like nuclear blackmail. Like, we're gonna fucking blow everything up if you don't give us. That's basically essentially like just like how the mafia operates.
Israel's nuclear
that's
program
kind of like
has
why you're saying one of the reasons that we continue to provide them weapons and support is because they are crazy enough to fucking destroy themselves.
I think that's how Joe Biden feels right now. I feel like they sort of feel like
this is like part of the like Christian Zionist thing is like, on the one hand, like, you should be categorically against a country that's willing to like erase itself and millions of people with it. And on the other hand, these Christian Zionists want the second coming of Christ. So they think that that's like a shortcut, right? Am I reading this right?
No, they're trying to facilitate the Armageddon and end times.
Yeah. So
it's man-made Armageddon.
Are we crazy enough to think that they have an incentive to be like, well, if he's going to launch a nuclear weapon, at least we have the second coming of Christ, right? So it's worth, 8 million, 10 million people. Not a huge deal.
Like, that's the weirdest part of it all. It's like
all the Jews are supposed to die in the Bible. Or like a certain amount of Jews.
Okay, yeah, I don't know all the details.
That's the most awkward part of this whole fucking thing.
I don't know either.
Why are y'all supporting this? Why are y'all not weird about these people supporting this?
Yeah,
because they have very alternative motives.
It's like the people know that it's like the Christian Zionists, like if the second coming means that all the Jews die, then what? This is like two enemies that are like friendly with each other because they both want the same thing until they don't. Like,
this is literally threatening a Holocaust.
This is weird.
Oh my god, that's brilliant. That's a brilliant clapback. You can be like, oh, you're Christian and you support Israel, so you support genocide then. Sweaty.
Stinky.
To the JFK assassination.
This is a whole different rabbit hole that I didn't even touch.
Due to a lot of the escalated tensions with Israel's Prime Minister Ben-Gurion. And so we find ourselves at a point again where tensions are extremely high with Israel in a desperate situation, and we're seeing Israeli politicians and pundits already considering the nuclear option as if it wasn't already bad enough. It's also important to note, this minister was not suspended because he suggested nuclear weapons. He was suspended for admitting that they have nuclear weapons.
Two, the Israelis haven't asked us to get involved. They asked us to give them equipment. Number three, they have their own arsenal, which they never admit. And I'm saying to you this, I'm telling you the truth. Sometimes it's tough. If Israel is going to face annihilation, you think they have those nukes in there to collect dust? I'm not even encouraging anything be done. I'm not even saying nuke them, nuke them, nuke them. I am saying Iran needs to understand, and Hezbollah needs to understand, that if you think you're going to wipe out these people, you're not. And so we have to do a reality. And reality is...
This is Mark Levin. Does he actually think...
He sounds fucking insane. I cannot believe, like, people who just so openly talk about, oh yeah, well, they should know that nukes are on the table, should be just ripped off the fucking stage and been like, go home, never show your face back here again. We don't need any of your bullshit. Like... Psychopaths. unprecedented psychopaths. I can't get over how fucking crazy these people are.
What, you didn't think? What, you just don't want us to?
Our nukes are collecting dust. Jesus Christ!
You just don't want them to...
Won't somebody please think of the nuclear weapons?
Think about the nukes, man.
But America's involved in this. America, I said they're going to drop them. In my opinion, they might. I don't know. I have no idea. I'm the only one bringing this up. I'm not even encouraging it. But if you're a country that has that kind of weaponry, and your people are going to be slaughtered as they were, except this time totally destroyed, they need to be thinking about all their options.
Like the Samson Option.
And my guess is they are. I don't know. So when we go on TV and say, what are they going to do? What are they going to do? They're surrounded. They're going to wipe them out. We can't send troops. We can't. Fine. But if I'm the president or prime minister of Israel, I got to think it all through. All of it.
One of the reasons that developing some sort of progress in the whole Mideastern relationship, defusing the Palestinian issue and so forth, is that the greatest danger perhaps in the future of nuclear war is not going to come from the United States or the Soviet Union, both of whom, because of the great amount of nuclear power they have, fear its use and would be deterred to use it. The greatest danger is going to come from a nation that is smaller, that is desperate, and that just wouldn't care. And this lets the genie out of the bottle. It's proliferation of nuclear weapons that concerns me at the present time and should concern the Russians, should concern the Americans. Looking at the Israelis, certainly I would think they would be more responsible than many others, but let us suppose the Libyans got it. Now they are a little crazy, I think. Certainly the leadership there.
Okay,
that is why we've got to get this.
Yeah, he had to throw in the Libyan smear in there. He's a president. He has to.
Can we talk about how okay it was to say shit like that back in the day?
Crazy.
Where they're just like this bunch of people over here, they're nuts.
I mean, South Africa still had an apartheid regime, so like, who knows the shit that was coming out of their mouths?
Certainly wild, man. That is why
what does that even
we've got to
mean?
get this thing under control before it's proliferated out there, because the danger of a nuclear explosion then, which would spread worldwide, is simply unacceptable.
Insane. Even Nixon,
even
Nixon was like, "Fuck that." So
bro,
that's insane. I can't get used to how candidly and how openly these freaking idiots talk about nuclear war, and like they say, "Oh, I'm not suggesting anything," but they are. And when they use their words to communicate that, they're not just representing themselves. They're like using that time that they have on mainstream media to telegraph that message to hundreds of thousands of people. You know, maybe not so much on CNN, but like they are getting their message out and they're doing it deliberately. So people are fucking crazy.
Bro, when the original sin is out, like I'm sorry, you've gone into marbles free land. As only I say.
We've reached new boundaries. Once you move to the right of Ronald Reagan, what No, wait, so the right of Ronald Reagan is genocide. That's literally what it is. That's free away from genocide.
Just like hardcore,
yo,
like
everybody
he was right on the edge of it, and then genocide.
Y'all, just take this in for a second. Being to the right of Ronald Reagan is currently being called a communist. That's how fucked we are. We are that fucked. The radical communist regime is to the right of Ronald Reagan. That's
this is insane.
Oh my fucking god.
The point of this segment, just some thoughts to think about. I also want to remind people, famous Freemason Albert Pike in 1817.
Oh, he's a Freemason, brother.
Oh no, he's the Illuminati. Well, this is this is verifiable. I mean, this is the extent of like what I know about this. I've read I maybe watched maybe 2 videos on it, but Albert Pike back in the 1800s left a note and predicted 3 world wars. Just listen to this. A Freemason predicted this. Left behind a note after he died.
He predicted 3 world wars. The First World War, he said, must be brought about, and I'm quoting from Albert Pike. The First World War must be brought about in order to permit the Illuminati to overthrow the power of the czars in Russia and of making that country a fortress of atheistic communism. The divergences caused by the agents of the Illuminati between the British and German empires will be used to foment this war. He says, quote, the Second World War must be fomented by taking advantage of the differences between the fascists and the political Zionists. This war must be brought about so that Nazism is destroyed and that the political Zionism will be strong enough to institute a sovereign state of Israel in Palestine. He's now thinking about this Third World War, and it says that it will be caused by the differences between the political Zionists and the leaders of the Islamic world. The war must be conducted in such a way that Islam, the Muslim Arabic world, and political Zionism, the State of Israel, mutually destroy each other. That's what it says. Meanwhile, the other nations, once more divided on this issue, will be constrained to fight to the point of complete physical, moral, spiritual, and economic exhaustion.
When was that? That's crazy.
1800s. 1890? Yeah. I think you're
1890,
right.
He was talking about Zionism in 1890? That's crazy.
Zionism,
I guess,
existed then. Dude, there was Israeli terrorists. Dude, before 1948, there was Israeli terrorist groups.
That's one.
Well, I know Zionism, but like that's like right around when like the beginning of Zionism, when it was like kind of created, wasn't it? It wasn't much before that. That's I don't know enough about Zionism to know its history, but that seems like quite prescient. The guy was a soothsayer.
That's honestly one of those rare, like, is this all a fucking simulation moments where you're just like, what? Come on, fuck.
No, I think I feel like this
long ago.
What's that?
Between the connections of like the Christian Zionists and like the Freemason like prophecies and like the biblical prophecies, all of this shit, like it feels, whether or not it's like scripted already, they want it to be scripted. It feels like they're really pushing some sort of like end game apocalypse. Maybe I'm paranoid.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would agree with that because one of the reasons against Zionism and establishing the state of Israel was because people thought that trying to usher in the Messiah and the second coming and trying to create all these events was actually blasphemous and presumptuous on the part of like people trying to create that state. They're like, what are you doing? You're trying to like make a shortcut to seeing God again, you know, like, and people were actually against it. So I don't know. It's crazy.
It's literally trying to facilitate the second coming of Christ.
It's wild. It's wild that's like, it's really concrete evidence. I feel like that there is a direct connection between like a religious agenda and like the political agenda.
Oh no! We're ruled by like literal like wackies. I think it's bad. I think it's
like what we saw last week with freaking Li Fong, where he's like, yeah, there's 40 or 50 people in Congress who are all Christian Zionists, and at some point you have to just kind of figure out that it's like really is like a religious agenda with a lot of the decision making, especially when it comes to Israel. So it's freaking wild to me. It takes a lot to wrap my head around it. Like, we're supposed to be separating church and state, but yet like so obvious when it comes to Israel that it's very much religiously motivated. So
I'm sorry, Christians. The Anunnaki are not coming back. Give up. It's okay.
You want me to?
Kissinger also said in 2012 that Israel has 10 years left to exist.
In 2012, he said that?
Yes, 1 second.
So, I mean, it's 2023, so it's like pretty much right on schedule because it looks like it's imploding one way or another. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen to Israel a year from now, but...
Bro, is this all in a fucking Asana or something? What the hell? Like... Oh, right on time. We got to do the thing.
I feel like people at this point
so goofy
know that the current the current state of Israel in its form can't really exist much longer.
No, it's politically
so fascist and so freaking violent and like so fucking crazy.
A New York Post group columnist reported earlier this month that she's a former U.S. Secretary of State Henry Kissinger said Israel will not exist in 10 years. Reported to me, Henry Kissinger had stated, and I quote the statement word for word, "In 10 years, there will be no more Israel." In 2012. So I feel like there's like there has to be some level of awareness. Like, you can't tell me that the CIA, like the intelligence agencies, are not one step ahead and in some form or another, like, recognize the political instability and like how much of a like mess that Israel is, that it's going to eventually fall apart, or at least like they seem to like have to be they have an understanding of where this is heading.
Well, yeah. So then the question is, I guess, because my understanding of why we're so invested in Israel is mainly because it's a military outpost, right? So if the U.S. or other countries that support Israel see the instability on the horizon, then they're going to be like, fuck it, we'll see who else we can take out with us. That's how important Israel is to everybody, like the U.S., that they're more interested in going to war with Iran and Russia and China and all this stuff, and in the second coming of Christ maybe, and do all this crazy shit than to let Israel implode on itself. So, I mean, that's kind of where I don't know. There's so many different things to look at with that regard, but the
many different
motivation is strange to me.